Hey, buddy, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you too. Good morning.
Sweet.
Rise and
I just
shine.
see, it's still morning for me here. I'm trying my best to kind of get up. To me, it's technically the start of Thanksgiving week, technically, but
Oh,
I've
right.
actually been, like right now, I got a few things to take care of. I still go to work till it's Wednesday, but in terms of school wise, I don't do anything, so I'm
Uh,
pretty much just chilling here.
that's so good. Yeah, I think of anyone, you really needed the biggest rest ever. So it's good that you're getting a chance to take a breather, get some time to catch your breath and, figure out your next set of moves. But before I go any further, thank you for joining me on this podcast. I've been doing just a few of these to, talk to creators, friends, just people that I really admire for, doing new and creative things, leaders in the industry and the emerging new indie industry, which I'd love to, pick your brain about today. Before we even start, can you say your name? Because a lot of people, I've heard them say your last name very differently. And can I hear it from you?
Yeah, yeah, of course. It's actually pronounced Murillo. There's like a Hispanic little R, like a roll, like
Right.
your R, like Murillo. So at least that's the way that I'm like going to pronounce whenever I'm with family or in Mexico or whenever I'm with my grandparents. Yeah.
Because I've heard people say Murillo and really like pronounce the L's in it and, kind of skip over that Murillo, that really nice roll of the R. So, but you prefer either
Yeah,
one? Either one's fine, right?
well, yeah, either or. I've been called like Murillo or Murillo. Um, but like in terms of like its pronunciation, I always hear my parents and my family say it as Murillo.
Very nice. Yeah, uh, for me as well. My whole delve into issues with my birth given name was started in first grade, where I went to private school, and I had some really tough nuns. They were all Irish and just really really great people though, but very very tough. But uh, my full name is Andres Isaac Alvarez, and when my first grade teacher saw that, she said, "Oh no, you're gonna be named Andy." And that was it. Everybody has
Ah,
called me Andy since.
I always thought that it was Andy because I know when we first met, back in 2021.
Yeah.
I've always I remember hearing how you've always spelled it as Andy.
Right.
But then I see, oh, by the way, real quick, I don't see you. I just see like a
Oh yeah,
background. Yes.
I went ahead and saved everyone the view of how I look in the morning as well. So for the podcast, I just have like a general like screen that's up that says podcast in progress. So yeah, there won't be any like visuals of you or me. It's just going to be the audio for people like who are commuting to work or just going about their day, and they can listen to the podcast. I think in the future, maybe the next like 5 or 6 episodes in, I might actually invest in a little more camera equipment. So far I just got a microphone, but yeah, I kind of figured like the audio portion, I probably will have like a nice thumbnail, a picture of you, and also possibly your amazing project that we'll talk about in a second. But I'll share that with you before this ever gets posted or anything. But I think you just see like the background of my messy work desk, right?
Yeah, I did like your very old gas station, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, you were not kidding that you have all sorts of like Ninja Turtle stuff.
Oh my gosh, you're talking about a total fanatic of epic proportions. Now all this stuff you see there is all boxed up and in my garage because of the humidity out here in Texas. But yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I guess maybe we can start sort of in the beginning, like how you and me met, and I believe you were one of the shining stars of the storyboarding for streaming program. And did we meet just through the school, or was it like through Facebook or something?
I'm gonna be honest. I don't like. Okay, I am trying to remember exactly how we met. I think like one of the things was because when we were talking to our friend Rachel, I think she introduced me to you in that way.
Right.
I think
maybe it was
maybe this is
Rachel.
one of those things where like I kind of made the joke about it. I wish our brains had like a memory, like a what is it, like a flash drive.
Yeah.
Like, just easily take through and like say like like, I need to make sure that like I could find the file or the memories like
Right.
2 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't care.
I heard we do have that, but our brain wipes it like to make room for more space, and only holds on to, I think, like memories that are like way like further out, like way more distant. But all the stuff that's like even just our meeting would still be too new for, I think, our brains to hold on to. And it's probably just like, again, recycling, space, so we can have room for all new memories. But yeah, I feel the same. I really wish, like, maybe I get that Elon Musk brain thing where you can like literally save your thoughts to like a hard drive, like an external drive, and literally never forget anything ever again because it's all there stored.
Yeah. It's a little scary though. Yeah. But in terms of like how we met, I think we all met from we were referred to by someone, and the referral kind of went on to like being a part of the Ground Zero animation. Which, funny thing, I still have that shirt
yes.
I bought years ago.
Whoa.
It's still untouched. It's kind of like at this point, a collector's edition, or like a little collectible
yes
thing that I just kind of have just for the sake of like, hey, yeah, you remember that you were part of this convention.
Wow.
I had that, and yeah, like I remember how we were part of this Ground Zero animation for a while. We were using that one internet kind of like convention program where we build like our own little 8-bit characters, and we can kind of roam around and talk to people. Yeah, like that's how I recall that we kind of joined afterwards. And and then afterwards I heard that you lived in the LA area. I was like,
I did.
Oh, like I'm here in the LA area too. Like, would you ever be down to just kind of meet up for coffee or something? Like, cause like in terms of people from the industry itself, I don't really know a lot of people. I don't really know like a whole bunch of people in person. I know people who are like virtual versus like social media, such like that. There are just a few people that I know who actually do work in the industry, but like in terms of like just that bubble itself is kind of small. Like I have my friend Corey, that, like we actually met through Starbucks one time when he just saw me drawing in public with the Wacom's what is it? Like one of those little like Wacom ones. And
oh yeah, I remember those.
Just came up to me. Yeah, like he came up to me like out of nowhere, and when he was questioning me, at first I was like, this is a random guy just talking to me about like what I'm doing, and I don't know why he's being a little nosy. But then when he says, "Oh, like I just for DreamWorks, like I just got finished from the bad guys," my mind immediately like,
what?
And like it's little stories like that, and like how that like I'm I'm able to really meet all sorts of people within the industry here. Most of them that I've bumped into are so kind, but they have always been so busy. And so,
Exactly.
So it's never really that easy for me to really kind of make friends with like people who are already in the industry.
Yeah, it is a little tricky because, at times you don't want to feel like you're overstepping, or, kind of making someone feel like, okay, we're just sort of friends online, but not really in real person. And I don't know you well enough to just like, meet up at like some random spot, but not me. I meet anyone, anywhere. I really have never had that like barrier where I felt like, well, let's just, just talk on Instagram. And if anyone ever is like, hey, you want to go like grab coffee or lunch or something, I no longer live in Los Angeles, which, it's a little harder to do now. But, I just always remembered that feeling of like, man, I wish I could meet so-and-so, or I wish I could pick the brain of, this person that I've like admired, for their work or for, just being a cool person or something. And I can't really remember too many instances where someone ever really like turned me down. And for the most part, everybody that I met, especially when I was coming up in the industry, was extremely gracious with their time and very generous to me. And I just can never explain why. I don't understand why somebody who, was at a very high point in their career would care about somebody who was literally just coming into their career. And then when I got an opportunity to work alongside some of my heroes, I realized, oh, wow, like, yeah, now I see that when you do get to a certain place or get to, work amongst, people you really admire, they never forgot. They never forgot what it felt like. A lot of them weren't even from Los Angeles. They were like from Ohio or like parts of New York. And, they couldn't be further away from the industry, but they always kept that with them deep down inside. And I just loved that. I loved how like everybody just kind of pays it forward. And I feel like that's something that everybody who's in a certain position or achieved a dream knows what it feels like to claw your way up there, and sometimes even, maybe not even achieve the dream fully, but, you still are pushing yourself and trying to achieve something. So I do really think, again, as time goes on and it gets a little easier to meet people, conventions especially, like you talked about Ground Zero. I had heard of Ground Zero because I was really into CTN in the like heyday of CTN. We're talking like 2014, era. And CTN really opened a lot of doors for me personally, especially like with Toon Boom, which you and me, I think, will be doing some work with later this year or early next year. I think like conventions are something that a lot of people don't really like look at as a really powerful tool to get you in front of people, not just like, oh, the big booths of like DreamWorks or Nickelodeon or something like that, but the little like indie booths where it's like people like, hey, we're staffing up for something. It's not going to be like, this massive thing, but if you want some freelance, talk to us. And I can't tell you how many times that's turned into an actual job. And I feel like a lot of people, especially if you don't live in Los Angeles, you're not lucky enough to be in the, the backyard of the industry. Try and, if you can, save up your pennies and get down there. Get down to CTN, get down to, Ground Zero no longer exists. But Lightbox, I think, is one. I think there's a few other ones, but they're kind of escaping me. I think like, Comic-Con and Designer Con, but I do feel like Lightbox has become the centerpiece now. It's like the number one, or you tell me what you think was like. I don't know if you had some good experiences going to conventions or if you've ever tabled before, but Is that something you've ever done
Oh,
or thinking of doing?
I haven't done something like that before. I do intend to do that in the future as soon as the project that we've been working on will finally get its funds. As soon as we get to that level, we can actually start going up to conventions and start kind of presenting ourselves. But I know that there's all sorts of conventions that's been happening all around the globe that can at least get you somewhere branched with people in the industry.
Yeah.
Like it's more known that if it's like a certain type of career field that you're trying to go for, it's better to go directly to its source. I know that there's a lot of people who assume that that's the case. From my experience, everyone that I've been talking to so far has told me that even though it's good that you go to these places, it doesn't necessarily mean where you need to live in the LA area just to get a job. I know so many people who say I'm trying to live in LA so I can get a job. They're not hearing the part of you don't actually need to live in LA to get the job. You just need to be present, and you need to at least meet the person, the recruiter, your manager. In that sense, so that way they can actually understand exactly where you're from, where you're at, and be willing to get you a remote job. Because not too long ago, I took a tour to the Sony animation studio.
Oh,
and
nice.
We're talking to us about the type of positions and qualifications and requirements, all that stuff that they're looking for. And they told me that they don't care about if you live over in Texas. They don't care if you live over in New York. As long as you have the craftsmanship, the qualifications, all that stuff, then you're good. But of course, you have to meet these people for them to actually
yes.
So yeah, of course, it's important that you go into these conventions and you go with them in the sense of building a relationship.
Right.
Actually, that's one of the things that I feel is going to get everyone a job these days. Knowing the person who knows someone, of course, as opposed to you can have really, really good stuff within your portfolio, but if you're just kind of standing right there and just expecting people to just find you and you're not exactly presenting yourself, then yeah, of course, that's that's how not a lot of people are able to get work. At least this is just what I hear from a lot of people, where it's, you have to build a relationship with these people. And in some way, it is a little bit like dating, where it's you have to get to know this person before you can ask them out.
Right.
Instead of, just randomly coming up, hey, I see that you're available, you want to go out. And it's you're going to make that person uncomfortable and say, so what are you talking about? So you have to build a relationship with these people in order for them to actually go up and say things like, yeah, I know you, I know you for 10 plus years, whatever. And I know that you've been doing all this here, so I can get you a job to XYZ. Of course, meeting them in person or at least talking to them in general can definitely help. I know that there's a lot of people who have been doing a little bit differently, where it's it can be a little difficult for them to meet up in person if they live in different states. So instead, they would, of course, do I've seen some people who do Zoom cafes or some sort of a little virtual cafes where they would just kind of chat for quite some time. I know that may not be the exact term.
No, that makes sense.
Wrong, but it would be where they would sit down and they would actually just kind of chat virtually, and it just kind of get to know each other. In that sense, where at least that they can understand who this person is. And
did you ever hear about Producers Pool? I think they did something. I'm not sure if you ever heard of it, but a producer friend of mine who worked in the industry for some time, she had developed this this industry hangout called Producers Pool. I'm not sure if she's doing it anymore or what happened, but I might reach out to her, and if it's still going on, I might send it to everyone or post it on LinkedIn, because it was literally just a hangout, just like you described, a Zoom hangout with a bunch of industry people just talking to each other, just kind of randomly. There was some awkward silence moments, but if you've met a cartoonist, we all have like kind of like wild and crazy personalities. So, someone's going to break the ice. But going back to how we met. So I believe, yes, you had possibly come through Rachel Marks, another really great friend and amazing talent. And you came into the Animation Design Center at kind of an interesting time, because I was not only doing industry work in the day, I was teaching at night, but then also trying to get an independent or indie film, Konzik Boy and Toast, off the ground. So you a lot of people don't know this, but I kind of think you might have made your debut as a storyboard artist on Cosmic Boy. And kind of predated, a few of your newer projects. So, maybe one of these days we'll have like an exclusive, like here, check out like some of the earliest storyboard work from Daniel. But I do remember you were extremely hard worker, and really like took your career or your future career very seriously. And but still had a lot of fun with it, and I think like one of the hallmarks that I always look for if I'm ever working with anyone on any level is, are they easy to work with? Do you want to hang out with them? Because, and this more than anyone, when you have a project, you're going to be spending a lot of time on it. A lot of free time that you could be doing other things, but you're so laser focused on getting this idea or this concept off the ground. It sort of like envelops every part of your life in good and bad ways, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I think you definitely stuck out as one of those people that was easily going to do something. I remember just like thinking to myself like, oh, this guy's going to do something. Like everybody I worked with, in that era, I want to say 2020 or 2021, there was definitely some really talented people. But I think it definitely stuck with me. And I think we kind of remained friends even after like the semester was over. Just like on a personal level, I was like, hey, I got a lot in common with you and with Rachel, and we hung out a bunch after. And again, like I said, I've been really cherishing that friendship that we've had for, this many years. It's been a long time. Jeez.
I know, 4 years feels,
yeah.
to me it feels like it was a lot longer.
Yeah.
I still remember how I was talking to you like during the phase of like when you're starting to reopen places during COVID, and how I was on the bus trip going all the way from the Greyhound to Orlando, which I do not recommend anyone to do.
Please make that into a cartoon. Please make that into a cartoon, because that story by itself is one of the greatest stories like ever. Like I would pay money to sit down and watch that fully animated, and
I think that's something that I can always try to look into in the future. Maybe make like a funny horror story of some sort, stories of like what it's like to ride the Greyhound.
Yeah, real horror. This isn't supernatural horror.
Yeah.
This is real horror. Like what?
Not supernatural horror like the projects I'm currently doing, which I'll talk about that one a little bit. But we've met for quite some time. We've been chatting for quite some time, and the reason why I actually feel acquainted or just like comfortable talking to you about anything in terms of like for animation itself is because that you definitely have that heart of trying to build something for the students and being willing to put in everything in order for that to happen. I've talked to so many mentors who they don't seem as passionate for the students. It's just more of like self-centered towards the fact that if they can make money out of their courses, and that's the only priority that they have. And as soon as you have your session with them, that's it. You never really get to hear from them ever since. And they're kind of pushing the envelope over and over about pushing their own courses, which yeah, like that type of stuff, like you're building your course, like it can become like a good financial cushion, but or like a passive income. That's the word I'm looking for.
Right.
But, when you're really just more focused on building your passive income and not caring about the person who is the customer, like the person who is getting your course or such. Then that's of course where you actually start feeling like as though there's some sort of disconnection between the two. But you, of course, the fact that you've actually sat down so many times with people and just kind of listened to their stories, getting them on board for certain things, like for Cosmic Boy and Toast, I still remember how like I was blown away just looking at all this stuff. I was like, I don't know what people were doing here, but like I love this. Like I love it so much. And it got to the point where I actually made my own Cosmic Boy and Toast animatic. I don't know if you recall the one that had like
shoot,
it was the voiceover from Ice Age.
Right. Yes.
Sid was what was it? He was being abandoned from the first movie.
Wow.
And like I used that audio as though like it was a little parody between Cosmic Boy and Alien, where it's like
I remember
coming down just to hunt him. But like he hugged this thing when he was like, "Doesn't anybody care about the sloth?" And it just like the audio and that little like creature just kind of like crawling away, kind of made like a perfect set or like.
Oh my god!
Cosmic Boy just kind of hugged this thing and it's like, God, get away from me, just like that. So yeah, like from all of that experience, of course, it definitely makes me feel like though, that there was because we all have our own stories. We all have our stories of how things go into motion here. I definitely felt like that this we have to start somewhere in order for these things to go. And like I have been dedicated. I have been like very determined for this stuff that I've been doing because like I've been trying my best to like get to the point where I'm able to help out people as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily where I'm only doing all the stuff that I'm doing because I like for many people it's because they want to make a cartoon, or for the majority of people it's also because hey, like we're trying to make an income from all of this stuff.
Right.
Yes, those stuff are good. Like it's good to think about like for your careers. It's good to think about your dreams, but when like I have like this different mentality when it comes to like building a kind of like a mission with this, in that sense where there's a lot more to it other than just like because if you're going in only just because you're trying to make money, then
it's
really feel like it might become a dead end job, for some people. And if you're only focused too much about the dream, you're not really focused on the reality or the obstacles that kind of come in that way. And yeah, like you've shone that light to me. You've kind of helped me to understand that there are certain obstacles here and there. And even though, like at some point, I like hearing the story almost made me quit, but I thought, no, like what good is it going to be if I quit?
Exactly.
At this point, and just decided to like stop entirely because like the things that's been going on right now with our projects, it's been going because I stay consistent. I've actually been passing through the vision of like, or at least I'm no longer considering it just a dream, nor am I just doing it just because I want money or such like that. Those mentalities, I feel like can be obstacles itself if it's not treated right.
Right, like your intentions and like going back to something you had said earlier about finding work in today's modern climate. I feel like what's interesting is like my era or my experience in the animation industry is so vastly different from your generations, where I feel like my generation was sort of like the 1930s in the sense that like the studio is everything. Your validation as an artist is validated through being, working for a studio, like a studio everyone knows. So that's like, okay, now I'm like a real professional artist, because I'm working for, Disney or Sony or, Nickelodeon or something. And sort of like the 30s, the studio dictates everything you're going to work on, like what kind of project it's going to be, what kind of style, like all these like different things. And I feel like it's changed now. It's almost like now it's like the 1970s for movies, where it's like the independent, gritty indie films are sort of the ones that are going to be leading now, and like the old sort of way of doing things, where the studio is everything, is kind of going away, or has gone away since 2023. In my opinion, I think it's really taken a very big turn, and I think for like a lot of students, especially, yourself included, you're going into a climate that has really never existed like this in a very long time. And I think it's like sort of refreshing itself, or it's almost reinventing itself. But there's just so many new opportunities on how you can create your first job versus, get hired at your first job. Now, I just got the little clicker on here that I have 8 minutes left in this meeting, so I might actually just pause for a second and start a new meeting, because I forgot to re-up my Zoom thing here, so I only have 40 minutes at a time. Do you mind if I stop real quick and then send you a new link?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll text you the new link right now. So, little quick breather. Okay, bye.
Cool.
All right, test 1 2 3.
I can hear you.
There we go. Yeah, so I was pick up where I left off. The current climate of the industry, your perspective on, like, so I kind of like made a sort of projection of, I really do feel like today, especially like I said, for students coming out of college and those people who are really interested in getting their first job, do you feel it's a much better path now to create your first job as an indie developer, or do you feel like, wow, this is 20 times the work of just being hired for like one particular thing, like storyboarding or character design? What do you think? Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what is your perspective on that? Like, you're literally in that era of your career right now. So what are your sort of thoughts on that as a current animation student slash indie developer?
So my take is this: it does act as its own job, because of course, if you're putting in within the right foundations, if you're putting in for the right resources to really make it as a true job itself. Now, that's not necessarily to say where it's like, this can't be anything other than just, well, okay, because, like, from my experience, it's more like this. There's so much dedication that I have to put into running my own show where, you have things to take care of in terms of, like, you're practically act as, well, of course, you are the showrunner for this project itself, or any project that you currently do, if you're going towards the indie route. From my opinion and from my experience, I definitely do think that it can be a little difficult if you don't have the right people with you. If you don't have the right resources to learn off from. That's sort of the reason why a lot of people actually are asking for volunteers or like internships, or all that type of stuff is actually going to help you to shape up exactly like the routine that you're trying to go for. Because it's one thing, like I said earlier, where it's like if you're only thinking about a dream and not doing anything to make that dream come true, then it just stays as just like as a dream, like a thought itself of like what if or like how that would look like. And that's the reason why there's a lot of schools who encourage you to go to internships and do all this kind of stuff, so that way you can get this type of experience. And so that way, if you ever decide to go within any route, or if you decide to do like self-employed or whatever, then that's when you're able to pick up that experience and kind of put that into into your to the projects that you're currently doing. One thing though that I would just kind of like advise for a lot of people when they're considering whether you're going the indie route is you got to make sure that you have how do I say? If I were to go back in time, I would tell myself a little bit more like learn more from professionals. Look at the books that they would look into and try to really kind of figure out how to apply that type of stuff towards your own work, even if it was just you who were the person in charge. The reason I said that is because within my school years, or at least when I started really kind of putting my foot forward towards kind of doing all this stuff, I didn't really learn a bunch of stuff, and because of that, it kind of resulted to towards a very shaky start where team members that I had beforehand actually hate me now because they had not I had not exactly been proven to be like a very good leader, or in the sense of like trying to run a production of my own. And I don't blame them. The only problem that I had was, again, literally the lack of experience, the inexperience, here, because school doesn't teach you this type of stuff. So
No.
This is why it's important to go out and talk to people out there who have that type of experience and tell them, ask them questions, and even just kind of get their insight on how are you doing this? Can you share me a little bit of some information about where you learn all this stuff, so that way I can probably do this better for my own. I bought myself a book that talks about it's called Producing Animation, and that book alone was able to kind of help me too. Which, by the way, we're not sponsoring that book.
Sure, you could plug it.
This book kind of taught me a little bit about here's what you should consider when you're trying to do your own, here's how you should be, or you should roll as a production manager, or how you should do all this stuff. If I had learned all this stuff beforehand, then it would have been a lot more easier for me to kind of build the structure alone as an indie artist, or whatever. And at least for these experiences, at least it is still acting as a trial and error, a learning experience for as I go.
Right.
So that way I can actually improve on this type of stuff, and that way I can actually know exactly how to approach this certain situation in the future. Because now, again, that's the reason. If I were to go back in time, now it would actually make a lot more sense for me to kind of wait and just kind of learn all this stuff and then apply that to the stuff that I'm currently doing.
They say hindsight's always 20/20. You can always look back and say, I should have done this, I should have done that. But sometimes, it's kind of exciting that you decided to, you know what, with like you said, maybe half of what you actually needed, decided to say, hey, let me throw all my stuff in my creative toolbox and see what happens. Let me just go for it. And of course, you're going to run into growing pains. You're going to run into all kinds of different personalities, working on, with a crew. And it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be a clean, easy experience. It's probably going to be quite messy, and that's okay. Like, it's okay to have those growing pains. And like you said, I think it's really like good of you to also look at yourself and say, yeah, I think I could have made some better decisions as a leader. And you've kind of learned from a lot of those experiences, and it's a constant work in progress. Like, there is, like you said, no school to be a successful indie cartoon creator. It just doesn't exist, including like being a producer. These are not traditional things that you or me were trained to do. We were trained to do like a very specific thing, and that is, draw. But now we're you have to be a businessman. You have to be versed in law, on copyright and things of that nature, and contracts. And, there's so many more hats you need to wear, because you are the studio now. You are like the walking Disney or Pixar or something. It's one person. And that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot, especially for, someone like yourself who's, still in, college age. That's a lot to put on your shoulders. And, I mean, again, this could be sort of like a make or break moment, but you didn't give up. You didn't quit. Even when things got difficult, not naming any specific names or anything, but, just in terms of like the overall situations can be quite overwhelming, for everyone involved. And I think anytime you embark on a creative journey, I'll just use Cosmic Boy and Toast, for instance. I really do empathize and agree with you. Having never sat in that seat of being the sole creator and the sole decision maker, you're suddenly like in a position where any decision you make can affect people in a good or negative way. And it's sort of your job to kind of go in there and actually help each person find a way to get a little closer to your vision, in any way possible. Like you said, even if you're just staying with them for like an extra 30 minutes or an extra hour out of, working with them on their sequence or their design. But really a lot of it's like rolling up your sleeves and getting dirty and showing your crew that like you're the first one in battle to lead the charge. Even though, yeah, you're going to take the majority of the shrapnel and probably, be stuck full of arrows, as you go through, but that's okay. You're gonna show them that you're gonna sort of bleed along with them. You're gonna be in the trenches with them, not just like, hey, like I'm the creator, I don't touch anything. I just sort of sign the checks and you guys do all the dirty work. Nobody really wants to work for someone like that. They want to work for someone who actually has some skin in the game. But again, you go that route. Yeah, you're gonna brush shoulders against people sometimes, and some people are not gonna agree with you, and you're gonna have to make some tough decisions. Sometimes that means like letting go of certain people. That's part of it. That's part of being a leader or being someone who's in that position where you have to make those tough decisions. Where it's like, you know what? I'm not sure if this particular person's right for this project, maybe on something else down the line. And sometimes it is a little like heartbreaking to tell somebody that and say, you know what, like it's just not a right fit right now. You try not to crush someone or, make them feel bad or anything, but you do have to also protect yourself and protect your vision and do it in a way where everybody who leaves this project will have something with them, whether it's a portfolio piece, a great memory, or I hope over everything and beyond, not for a ginormous paycheck or for, a huge success, but a long-lasting friendship, and that to me was the greatest legacy of Cosmic Boy and Toast for me. It wasn't a big financial thing. I never was going to be that, but I just was very happy that I made some long friendships, yours included, which was, I still cherish to this day. And maybe it will be something big, further down the line. I'm sort of gearing up for round 2 for Cosmic Boy and Toast, by the way. So, there'll be some more indie, projects on the horizon soon. But yeah, maybe you could talk about that. Like, what is it like making those tough decisions, being in that position? Again, like I said, not naming anyone specifically or anything specifically, but what does that feel like when you're the guy who has to make those tough calls?
One word: scary. But I think that's because from my perspective right now, because I'm currently still kind of learning my roots, trying to figure out my voice, trying to I'm still kind of new to everything about running a studio, running my own projects. It's not necessarily where that I don't care about these types of people. It's just when there's situations that kind of come along, the only response that I hear from so many people is, "This is your brand. This is something that you really have to protect at all costs." You can you can still stay connected with them. You can still at least build some sort of closure. I guess I want to say. Or if it's not someone, it's something that you kind of have to kind of settle down and I always say you want to make sure that you're it's not exactly going to ruin or affect the overall brand that you're trying to build here. Because some of the things that would kind of go along with it, I'm not going to name these people at all. It can be very hard to make these decisions because you want to be able to build a relationship with these people, you want to be able to make a benefit from whatever source is there, but you have to look into some of the potential risks that come along, and you have to really make the tough decisions whenever these things come up on whether if or not that you want them to be incorporated into the brand image itself. See? So it can be very scary. It can be very emotional trained, and because I hear this from a lot of people where they say if you let emotions come in, then maybe you shouldn't be in the position that you're in. I don't agree to them as much, because they are those people who they can be a little assertive, and I know for the majority of artists these days, and I'm with them too, where sometimes the toughest decisions can be the very most emotional. These types of things can feel very anxiety inducing, So I changed my course on the way that they would approach this, and they would tell me things maybe you shouldn't be manager, but I'm thinking to myself whenever I hear it say that, it's well, these days in order to make things work, but whether I said earlier in terms of the real dating or whatever, you have to have some sort of understanding. You have to have some sort of common ground. You have to build a proper relationship with them so that way they can actually understand. So that way there's some better understanding, and that there's no that the confrontations, everything like that is less difficult. If anything ever came up. And I hear so many people who say where it's the best leaders are the ones who kind of put their team first instead of them, so that's the approach that I try putting as much as possible, because at the end of the day, we're all a team and we're all trying to work on something that that we're trying to make as to fulfill our careers. So if I'm going out and only just kind of being strict about these things and not really kind of having any emotions for anyone, then I would actually be considered to be a bad leader from the perspective that I've been seeing. it's good that you care about people, but yeah, these decisions, when they come up, it's very scary because you don't know exactly what's the outcome. You don't know exactly how to like what's the best decision, what's the best reaction to it. And yeah, like all that stuff can come along, and like it can fall up, and it could come back to you one way or another if you're not being so careful about it, you know?
Yeah, I again, not divulging anything that you and me ever spoke of, privately, but during that time, when you're going through a lot of tough things on Phantom Fun Arcade. I don't know why I haven't even said the name of your project, by the way. Amazing project. The pain that you were going through privately was really hard to see. I mean, it really like was sad because you cared so much about these people involved in your dream, and to me, that was the best type of leader, that actually does care about his people, and every decision is it's so like you are taking so much time to really look at all possible ways of saving anything so that the friendship or the relationship could remain intact, even if that meant not working with, people or certain situations. But I really did see, that it was taking a very big toll on you. And, that to me, like I said, was just something, if I was in that other person's shoe, I think that would be an incredible thing to know, that any decisions that were made were not made lightly, and were made with the greatest care. And honestly, I'm very used to the corporate, well, if there's a problem, just chop it out, who cares? Like you're just a number. And to see an actual human being, actually care about their people, and I know this is indie, so it's a little different from like a corporate reality, but that actually made me feel very proud, very proud that, like I said, you were taking, these situations as they arose and handling them in the best professional way you could, but still also looking at it from like a human perspective and saying, well, I still really like this person or these people or whatever. And every decision you came to was not made easily. And that was definitely something that I think any future creators out there who may be listening to this, your crew is going to be a very important part of your vision. Whether or not they are part of a paid project or even a volunteer indie thing where everyone's getting a percentage or something, you guys are on a very small ship together, floating out at sea, and believe me, those waters are going to be very rough, and you're going to run out of water and food and all kinds of things, and you're going to all be tested under these very, very rough seas. And it's going to show your character. Whether you like it or not, it's going to show that part of you that is truly vulnerable. And a lot of people don't like that. That's why a lot of people, I think, don't like to go down the indie route, because they don't want to be in that position to make tough calls. They just want to get their paycheck, do their storyboards or their character designs, and just go home at the end of the day. Who wouldn't? But that kind of existence isn't really happening as easily anymore. And now, yes, you're going to have to be in those positions where you're going to be the leader or creator, and sometimes that comes with the territory. I don't know if you agree with any of that, but it just...
Yeah, I do, actually. Well, I would, to me, my take is more like this. For everyone who wants to consider to be in indie, the first thing that you really should consider more is whether, if or not, that this is something that you're willing to take. Because, like from these type of stories here, everyone's going to experience something bad one way or another. But if you're willing to take that as a lesson and you're willing to improve on that, then then I feel that is like a very compatible reason to go ahead and start becoming a leader of your own projects, of your own indie animation studio. If confrontations and this type of stuff can be a little difficult, then that's where at least I would encourage families to just get a little bit of some redirection, some support, because like I know so many people out there who want to be able to make their own projects, but when it comes to like the hardest decisions, when it comes to like going beyond the aspect of making just a simple project, you have to sit down and talk to these people who are currently doing all this stuff, and then being willing to understand what it takes, and then from there you can make the decisions on whether if or not that's what you want to do. I say that because I see so many people who say who do this thing where it's like, I want to be able to make my own show, I want to be able to make my own movie, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that again just stays within just the phrase of like what a dreamer's like vision would be, and they don't see like anything beyond that. And I'm there to, like I'm not saying this stuff, just like as a third person kind of stuff. I'm saying this like because I've experienced that too, where I was also that person who said, I want to make my own show, I want to be able to make my own projects, whatever. But the moment that I started hearing all these stories that came along and what you have to do, that was where I suddenly realized, okay, so there's a lot more to this than what I thought I had to do in order to, get this stuff fulfilled. Like I have to go into business, because you are running a business overall. I had to learn all sorts of things that kind of comes in with being a leader. And I also had to kind of sit down and I'm still learning this part right here. I'm still learning how to be a responsible manager, to be a responsible leader, how to direct people, how to do all that sort of stuff. Because by my choice, I want to be able to do all this type of stuff, so that way I can make the things that I want to do. So it's more of like just kind of structurizing the whole, I want to make this, and having that as a dream. Like instead of just making a dream, you have to do all that process, like that we've been talking about for right now, or like for the time being, about like you have to be ready for that. You have to be able to look into some of these things. You have to sit down and really kind of look through the many stories, and then kind of work something from there, so that way you can move on and decide whether, if or not, that making your own indie project is going to be the biggest thing. Because even if, say, hypothetically, you were doing this by yourself, there's still going to be something that you're going to have to work with, even if it were just being yourself that you're actually working, that you have to deal with. You have to consider, like, what are some of the hardest decisions that I have to make for myself in order for me to make this project a reality. Like, what are some of the challenges and risks that I have to consider, and what do I have to improve on, or what can I learn in order to make this type of stuff. If you're the type of mentality, or like if you have that type of mindset, and then you're willing to go ahead and make the moves, then you already are like a great leader overall. And this is just from my this is just how I've experienced things, where it's like, this stuff can be very exhausting, can be very discouraging if one thing leads to more tasks, and it can you feel like as though there's too much, and if it's becoming too much, that's where it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to start asking people. Even that's how it's okay to really start forming up a team of people who want to be able to help out with their vision, so that way they can make this stuff work. So that way they can, because there's so many people who want to do this too.
Exactly.
But sometimes they even they need the help. Even they need that person next to them who's trying to do the same do the same goals in life, so that way they can actually. Because what's that word? Or what's that saying? Two birds together. What is that? It's like
two birds of a feather flock together. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Almost said you can kill two birds with one stone, but I was like, oh no, I don't think he means that.
No, like killing two birds with one stone is story.
That's really brutal. I don't know why that became a thing, but that sucks.
I don't know either. No, but yeah, two birds of feather flock together. You need the help in order to, or at least it's okay to ask for some sort of help.
Absolutely.
Along with these obstacles, so that way we can go up and make these things happen. I mean, look, like for you and I, I've dealt with so many obstacles, and I've dealt with so many things in terms like I have questions about like how to handle this. And like if I didn't do this by myself, I think it would have been like a very tricky situation they would have been in. Right now. But like it's okay to ask for help. It's okay for these things to come through, because like that the problem is it's okay to go through these struggles, because that's what helps to shape you up into a better person.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the origins of Phantom Fun Arcade, because I had, previous to Phantom Fun, you've been working on a few other concepts, and I think one was, a pretty far along storyboard, and I remember you had shared it with me periodically, and then, I remember you got really busy with college and with work, and then all of a sudden I was on LinkedIn one day, and I just saw this amazing concept of and again, if people don't already know, I really love supernatural shows and videos, and that stuff has just always been something that I've always gravitated toward, because it's so mysterious and there's just so many things attached to it. And of course, I'm from the generation of where going to the arcade was a big deal, so to see you set your project in two really interesting areas, what were the origins of Phantom Fun Arcade?
So this is actually something that I tried very personally. I tried my best to kind of make sure I know exactly I pinpoint all of the important elements beforehand. So I'm gonna give it my shot. This is actually the first time I'm actually doing this here. So the origins of Phantom Fun Arcade really came down towards my obsession with spooky themes and stuff like that. As I've always been accustomed to kind of the thrill and that adrenaline of not knowing exactly what comes what's on the other side of what these horrors lead within just in terms of storytelling. Movies that I've grown up with has been it's weird how I was a little kid and I was exposed to things I don't know if I want to say that in a bad way. I grew up watching Chucky. I remembered how I was so in the
love Child's Play.
I was I was running away from even watching the screen, but there was something to me over and over that kept making me feel man, I should go back and watch this. I don't know if I wanted to. And for a while, I've always watched stuff like that. I've even watched Jeepers Creepers, which I still kind of get goosebumps going around cornfields sometimes, just thinking maybe something scary is going to come up from there. But there's this love for obsession that I didn't know was actually coming to me, and because the longest time I've always been so obsessed with animation more than I love live action. And as a kid, I never actually knew that there were people who were doing blending the meanings of horror or that spooky aesthetic into animation overall. And it wasn't until I bumped into a movie which was Monster House that kind of welcomed me to say that
great movie.
Actually mix all that stuff together. Yeah, I still remember a few things about that I was Because I lived in a different town as a kid where there was so many homes that kind of looked into that style, that house.
Oh, whoa.
And I kept thinking, hey, oh my gosh, like that house was gonna come to life. But yeah, like as a kid, I kind of grew up just like having two obsessions between animation and horror. And it wasn't until Monster House that kind of told me that type of stuff is like you can blend that type of stuff. Because I always thought when you're doing horror, it just has to say horror. If you're doing an animation, it has to be family friendly, or it has to be within just like that type of feel, without knowing that there's like room for like for more than that. So then Phantom Fun Arcade actually didn't come until within my it was about 2 years ago, when I was actually in school and we had to do like a pitch presentation. Now, at the time,
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was actually a little scary, kind of coming up with some ideas because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. At the time, I was actually At the time, I was actually having like a very, very emotional situation going on with my life, and I was actually going through like a heartbreak, and I was actually doing a project that was called Possum Witch. And Possum Witch, like I don't know if you remember that.
That was the one. Possum Witch was the project. I think the last thing you and me had kind of looked at, or I'd like just been seeing a lot of your boarding process on it, and yeah, Possum Witch was so that was like the one before Phantom Fun, or did you always have the idea for Phantom Fun even before Possum?
No, Possum Witch came before Phantom Fun Arcade, and Phantom Fun Arcade was not even like I didn't think anything about that.
Oh, wow.
At all, and that was because within the time I was dealing with heartbreak, and Possum Witch was supposed to be a resemblance of just the two factors between someone who was going through their own quest, but then they were betrayed by someone they considered a friend. And because of that, it actually made me feel like as though there's too much going on within this project here, where I'm kind of reliving the theme of this very difficult scenario in my life. I didn't want to keep touching base on this, over and over, and I just something felt wrong about all of this type of stuff. And at the time, that was also when I was actually growing within my Christian beliefs, or with my walk with God. I was trying to find healing, trying to find some sort of ground level, so that way I can move on from the stuff that had happened in the past. And when that was happening, I saw myself and just kind of felt this sense, or someone was talking to me and saying you shouldn't be touching the subjects of or the topics of witchcraft. In for what Possum Witch was supposed to be. Not
right.
Exactly in a sense where it's good, but rather painting a negative image to it. But there's this I kept screaming over and over and just saying things like that this isn't right, this isn't right. I thought, all right, well, you know what? I gotta stop right there. And I didn't know what I was gonna do. And during that time, two things actually. At that time, that's when the animation strikes and everything within those within all the riots that was going on within Hollywood was starting to come up. And also at the same time, this pitch program at school was kind of introducing us to making our own projects. So I had a bit of some difficulties kind of balancing out a little bit of what I wanted to do on whether if or not that I wanted to be an animator anymore. But I still kind of went in with the program because I've been accepted into the animation program at the time. And I was because to me, I feel like if certain things are led up to for where you're at right now, it's for a reason. And I didn't know what that was.
Wow.
And at the time, I remembered how I was so emotional and I was ready to give up. But I went to my car and then I was I came up with 3 ideas before I got off. And I wrote them as one which was a ladybug and a ghost. The second which was, I think it had to do with some sort of I don't remember what the second one was. But like the third one was about a group of paranormal, fake paranormal investigators who were caught inside of a real haunted location. And I remembered how I was so like fond for that idea about the paranormal quantities that I went to my car afterwards, and I was I was very emotional. I was very I was just going through a lot of moments, and then I just remembered how I was like in my car and I prayed, and I was like, God, if I surrender myself, and if I don't touch the Possum Witch anymore, and if we did the one about the paranormal investigators, would you be a part of it? Wow. I remembered how I invited him into this, and little by little, I had no idea that was actually going to be like the start of something big, because the project within our school, they wanted us to just do like a 30-second animation project. My first animatic Phantom Phone Arcade was 18 minutes long.
Wow.
And our professor was kind of like, what happened to 30 seconds? We're supposed to do 30 seconds. And I was like, I don't know what got into me. Like, I really don't know to this day. But like how 30 seconds turned into 18 minutes. But that was because I felt so passionate about the thing that I was trying to do. And because, like, to my belief, because I surrendered that, all sorts of things started coming along. Say, for instance, we are currently talking to some people who are willing to help to make this project a big success. We are talking to like all sorts of people, like celebrities started coming in, like indie celebrities, started coming in and started like kind of noticing about our project. We started getting people like Toon Boom who wants to be a part of the project itself.
Wow.
And they're willing to sponsor us. And then it kind of kept going up towards like we're talking to someone who helps with pitching these series to like big executive studios like Universal, Netflix, stuff like that. And here I am thinking like, this has to be because I asked God, can you be a part of this if I surrender Possum Witch? And I surrender my life in this, all this stuff, that's how like Phantom Phone Arcade really kind of like came to where it is right now, because of all the things that I've been, that has been working up to this very moment.
Speaking of that, we're less than a minute right now on this meeting, so I might pause again and come right back. So give me 1 second. Sorry, I'll get a new link right now.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, sorry. All right, test 1 2 3. We are back. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Nice. So, talk about exciting. 18-minute pitch, which then starts to get the attention of amazing places. Like, if for those of you out there who don't know Toon Boom, you're definitely living under a rock. They are the leaders in animation and storyboarding software. I can pretty much say maybe like almost a full decade of my own personal career has been working in Toon Boom and specifically Storyboard Pro. And I really do feel like, they've done a great job, especially in this new era. I think they've got some new leadership who's just taken over. Gabrielle, I think, is her name. And just so exciting to see how they've really championed or taken a big interest in indie film production, which you don't see a lot of places doing, So my hat's off to them for doing such a great job in supporting projects like this, which I do feel, this is the next chapter. Almost again, I feel like this harkens back to like the early 90s when everything was creator driven, and you had such an explosion of new things coming out, versus 20 different like versions of a movie, like part 2, part 3, part 4. It's like all that stuff just kind of like got pretty stale, and it's just so nice to see like this new renaissance of creator driven cartoons coming out. And so you started down this path. You're starting to get a lot of interest, and Kickstarter now is something that is really in a lot of ways making these projects a real reality. Indiegogo too, I think, is one of them. What was that like going down the path of Kickstarter, which I want to say its own animal, aside from the fact that, again, we are traditionally trained artists who don't necessarily have to think of so much, left brain stuff like business, rewards, budget, all these things which are hugely daunting on their own. Like I said, I almost think to be a successful creator now, you need sort of a background in finance as well. So
yeah.
What was that like, deciding, okay, I really want to do this now? I need to think about ways to maybe attract some funding so you can start getting a lot of your artists. I think at this point you might have been paying people out of your own pocket, or like I said, have them, as percentage partners or something. I'm not really sure, and probably don't even need to get into that portion. But having a budget, definitely going forward will, in a way, be able to keep people around, because, like you said, people need to pay the rent and eat and stuff. So how do you keep all this talent around if you don't have a budget? So what was that like? Can you kind of walk through the Kickstarter process, ups and downs, and all that sort of good stuff?
Yeah, so for starters, what we actually ended up doing was everyone who has been working part of our team has been kind of, we've made it known that it has to be volunteer just for the time being, because for the most part, yeah, I was actually paying out of pocket. This was actually me using my school loans to get this stuff funded. And there was so much money that was actually going left and right for the very sake of getting, kind of building our foundation, where it currently stands, which, by the way, it's still changing, because, the sense of pre-production itself it's starting to actually make things a lot more, it's making this project stand a lot more. But because of that, I had to ask the people over and over that you're currently going to be as a volunteer work, but in the future we would actually be able to reimburse the work that you've done, through its crowdfunding funds and everything like that. But what it started off with was we were building up a team, and we were just kind of looking for people who can help to make a few things in terms of character designs, in terms of the animations, the backgrounds, and stuff like that. And in terms of for the Kickstarter phase itself, we took because we've been doing this since February of this year, and we had to wrap up a lot of things. Which, by the way, building a Kickstarter itself is actually very, very meticulous. Is the word I'm going to say.
Right.
Because you have to make sure you plan out everything accordingly. You have to. It's not so much as you can just set up a page and then easily just click the launch button right there on. You have to have like proof of concepts. You have to have a business account. Yeah, you have to have if you're to get yourself business accounts, having like an LLC or such like that, that not only helps you stand out as a business studio itself, but also because tax purposes, they are going to ask for that type of information from your business. So you would have to have things like this is an account, like a debit card account, like a bank account. Excuse me, that's the word.
Right.
You have to open up all the sorts of things you have to consider in terms of like entrepreneurship, in terms of like how you're going to approach people. You have to consider how like the numbers when it comes to certain things, like how much is it going to cost to produce this, the project that you're currently doing, which, that's what I mentioned earlier about like producing animation. That book itself kind of like, it showed all sorts of things that I had to consider when I'm trying to make my own project itself. So you have to consider things like how much it's going to cost to pay everyone in the team, how much it actually would be to produce the entire project itself. You have to also consider things like how you're going to, how are you going to market it so that we can get people to help to donate to this. There's all sorts of things out there that you have to consider when building a Kickstarter itself. It's not easily just, hey, I'm opening up a page, I'm putting in some text about this project I'm currently doing, and then just expecting people to just randomly find you and then just start helping you out. You also have to build a community. At least it's one of those things where it's like, if I can go back in time and and do it all over again, I would start off by building a fan base or building followers, building like some sort of community of your own. So that way, when you're going out and you're building Kickstarter and getting this published out there, then people would know. Oh yeah, I know this person. I know I know their work enough to support them, because that's how I think the recent campaign that I helped support was there's this campaign called Bigger Than Blood, and they are trying their best to kind of build a community so that way they can get this project funded. But because they're still within the early roots and they haven't really built anything that's enough to get people engaged with their characters, they haven't been doing so well. And because I was there too, I was there within their side of the campaign. So and then that's where we kind of came up with the idea of why don't we just build our community first before we can actually get the stuff. And building a community isn't necessarily just getting the word out there and just telling people. You have to also consider building you have to get people interested. You have to get people engaged with the universe you're trying to build. Say, for instance, currently what's going on working right now is comics. We're building the comics for Fans of Fun Arcade so that way people can be familiar with these characters, and so then they can say, yeah, I actually like this series. I'm actually going to support this, as opposed to you randomly coming up and saying that you're a brand new campaign that you're going live in the next 2 weeks, and people have no idea who you are.
Right.
They're going to feel a little skeptical, So that's one of the things to consider when you're building a Kickstarter, where you really need to build a community of people who are aware of your work first. And once you actually get towards the Kickstarter page itself, there's all sorts of things you have to consider when you're building it. You have to tell people in terms of for entrepreneurship, the reason why they should help you out. You also have to talk to them about things like where their funds are going to go towards. And you also have to talk to them about who you are and why you're doing this. What's the story of your project?
Right. So be very transparent, right? Very transparent on how their funds are going to be allocated to produce animation, produce rewards, which, I was looking at the tiers and man, talk about some pretty killer, rewards that you guys had, but also quite difficult because now you're doing things like, for instance, plush dolls. You're kind of going into a whole nother industry, with toy design now, there's this kind of creates, like we said earlier, so many different hats that you have to wear, but I think a company in particular that I'm a huge fan of, Glitch Productions, out of I believe they're out of Australia, and I think they are do some beautifully done animation work, but I think they're truly masters of marketing and masters of merchandise, which they figured out a way to develop like a way where they can get like have a Kickstarter every day just through the merchandise and the people following their work, and they can constantly order t-shirts, keychains, plush dolls, like literally become their own target for their project. And I think, again, like a lot of people don't realize that like people want to like have something from investing in you. They want to hold something in their hands, whether it's a sticker, a piece of artwork, a plush doll. You want a keepsake. You want something in your hands, because who knows, what if this is like the next TMNT or something, and you have the first prototype plushies that ever were released. It's like, oh my gosh, like I helped make that a reality. So again, I think like the way you're describing it, you're almost putting the same amount of like energy and effort into a Kickstarter as you did the creation of your own project. Like, is it almost equal, in that sense?
Yeah, if anything, consider it to be its own full-time job itself. And not because you have to really be consistent and really kind of build up the structure of how you're going to build your campaign, or what are some things you're going to work around with it, like in terms of like for marketing, merchandising, the approach, the project itself. There's all sorts of little aspects that you have to consider when presenting this. Because again, like at the end of the day, it's a really big pitch that you're trying to tell people about. That there's this new project that you're trying to get crowdfunded, and you're trying to make into a reality. And that's the reason why, like, I strongly encourage whenever people are trying to build a campaign, to really consider all sorts of like elements and fundamentals about how you're going to approach this here, how what are you going to do, what are you going to offer to your people, and really talk more about things like the reasons why you're doing this. Because if you don't have your why you're doing this, then you, it's not going to be as strong in that sense of it's like all the videos that I bumped into, most of them would say things like hey, like, are you tired of romanticized films or movies or shows or whatever that seems a little too unrealistic? Well, if you're tired of that, then we've got a project for you. We're trying to do a project here that kind of breaks all those cliches. That type of stuff itself actually helps. And for our case, it's because within the animation industry itself, or just like overall animation, we are starting to live in an era where the rise of AI has actually been concerning a lot of people, whether if or not they want to, if they have a secure job in the future.
Right.
And because of that, and because like I mentioned earlier about like the animation strikes and such, I took that into consideration when building the Kickstarter, because I'm an artist as well, and I'm so close to leaving my career because of the things that's been going on. So I took that as my reason why I'm doing this, because I'm trying to help support artists. Like, say for instance, I am not going to touch the funds for my own benefit. The funds are going to go to people who are in the project first. And like, if there's a surplus, then I would go ahead and take that to kind of pay off the debt that I built from this. But they are going to be first. The artists are going to be the ones who are going to get paid. And I presented that to the Kickstarter page, where I told them about we're trying to help support people because during these times of age, not everyone's feeling so encouraged to continue doing these things. Like, big corporate cats are currently taking the they're currently telling where creators needs to be at this point. And especially what was it, just recently how Disney Plus is now going to do AI generated type of content.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
Platforms. Yeah, so that alone, I think there's a few showrunners of classic Disney shows that came out on social media and started talking about their opinions. where they one of them was actually just mad and said, "All right, well, you know what? Pirate my show. Do whatever it takes. If you want to enjoy my show, just don't watch it from Disney Plus because they're gonna start abusing the stuff that we were working on for so many years."
Right.
So you have to have a why. You have to talk about the reason why you're doing this on Kickstarter, and you have to really kind of make sure that you use some sort of like psychological neurons to make people want to feel, or to make people you have to make sure that they are connected to this. You want to be able to present it in a way where it's like they can understand, because what I told them was, if we continue allowing the rise of AI to continue doing what it's doing, so many people are going to lose their work, their careers, if anything, because there's so many people within certain industries that have already been affected from AI itself, and they've been out of work because of that. And within the indie animation, at least itself, that's where we can kind of tackle all that stuff,
right?
And we can show all these corporations that you do need humans in order to make this stuff work, because AI can even make mistakes, and that can actually mess up your work. If it's so perfect, it's going to take your job too, even if they were in a very high position. It could potentially take out their jobs, and then they start feeling worried, because they allowed that thing to come in and start taking the spotlight for everyone else. So you have to have your why. You also have to kind of talk a little bit about you also have to show content. You have to show all sorts of things with your Kickstarter page, so that people are aware about what your product is, whether if it's an anime, whether if it's a musical. You have to have some sort of stuff. I kid you not, I bumped you so many campaigns that lack that information, and they don't show anything other than just
wow.
I have this good idea. I have this thing that I had in mind. It's like, okay, where's the storyboards? Where's the concepts? Where's something
wow
for me to see, so that way I can say that, this is actually something that you're actually trying to, that you're actually trying to make. Because Kickstarter should be treated as the shopping cart to producing everything after the pre-production phase is over.
That seems to be. You did a lot of work, or you and your crew did a tremendous amount of work even before getting a Kickstarter. There was so much produced animation, and I mean, it was, like you said, most of that all coming out of your own pocket, investing in yourself and your own idea. That is incredible to see, just the amount of time and dedication that it takes. It in a weird way too, I think you've almost created another career for yourself as a Kickstarter indie consultant. So maybe some of these new creators who want to go down that route can reach out to you and say, hey, can you mentor me on creating a Kickstarter for my project? Tell me the pitfalls and the things that I would need to know, because like you said, if you don't do the research and you make a lot of these common mistakes, you could be sort of self-sabotaging your progress. I do know from the Kickstarter itself, you guys were able to raise, I want to say, at least over half of your projected budget, which is pretty amazing. I mean, was it I want to say it was a little over half you guys had raised, which again, in today's economy, with people losing their jobs left and right, that's a huge feat, to bring in thousands of dollars of people's own hard-earned money, to invest in something that they believe in. What's the current state of the project right now? With are you able to do something with half that budget, or do something smaller, or is it do you feel like you want to do an Indiegogo instead, or what's the current state of the project in terms of where funding is?
it's like this. We actually raised more than half the amount that we were trying to pledge for. We were going for $40,000, but we ended up with $28,690.
Oh my gosh.
Which is 72% of the actual campaign's, and that is actually impressive for our first time, despite literally having not so much as like a community being built. We did we did actually build a community during the campaign, but that's something, of course, that I mentioned. If I were to go back in time, I would have done that differently. But the fact that I did that now, I think because there's a lot more people who are aware about us. In fact, I kid you not, here's two small little stories that I think is pretty cool. One, we have fan art. I had no idea that was even going to come up.
Wow.
We built people through interest through our storytelling, through our comics, and some of the animations. But some people had actually drawn stuff, which I actually found more. But I haven't posted it yet because I'm going to save those for a different day.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's so cool.
Yeah, the fan art part was actually pretty fun because that's something that, I thought was going to happen during after the production has wrapped. Secondly, I actually bumped into, when we were at Lightbox, I found some people who actually knew who we were, and they were geeking out over and over, just like, wait a minute, oh my gosh, I know you guys, I follow you, and all sorts of stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting, because we weren't expecting to bump into people. But yeah, we raised over 70, we got 72% of it funded, and that was because we built the community during that. I feel like we are actually going to have a higher chance of succeeding this next round because of that, as well as we also did some things where we got some sponsors. I mentioned Toonboom. They are helping us out as much as possible. I've talked to a few other local businesses, and they're willing to help chip in a very large amount of funds to make this, for us to reach 40,000. So that's another important element that when you're trying to build a campaign is you want to have more than just the backers, a casual person's contributions to be part of your project. You have to look into sponsorships of some sort, or at least consider doing things what we're going to do next is we're going to try lowering our price to 20,000, and we're going to build up from stretch goals from that point on. Because first time projects can be a little difficult if they go past the $40,000 range.
Yeah.
It's still achievable, but you have to really, really have a big amount of people who are aware of your project and the community for it. You have to really kind of build up from that point on. But yeah, for us right now, where we're currently standing is we're waiting to relaunch. Definitely, I would not consider. I think the thing that kind of messed us up as well was we chose October, even though that our project it really matches with the going of Halloween.
Oh
season.
yes, yeah.
But because there's a lot of people who are currently saving money for Black Friday.
Yeah.
Or the season.
I didn't think of that.
That alone is not going to help out with the our pledge rate. As opposed to launching, say, maybe February, March, where there's a lot of projects currently, or a lot more projects are being launched during that time, as well as there's some a higher pledge rate that happens during the beginning of the year, and that's because there's a lot of people who are hoping that they can get their product by Christmas, so that way they can treat that as a Christmas gift for many people. You see?
Exactly. Yeah, that the strategy of understanding where the market's going to be, and how just Christmas and all those things fall. I think I have a way to fix that. Can you just put a Nintendo Switch 2 in the rewards? So it's hey, I'm donating.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was so close to doing that. I was actually going. When you're building an audience and you're trying to get people to be engaged with this stuff, you have to also consider some sort of possibilities you can do to get people to really be engaged with it. So one of the things we were going to do was a sweepstakes, where we would say like the highest backer is going to receive like a Nintendo Switch 2 or some sort of like little sweepstakes where someone would get the Switch. But when we talked about that, we thought that's not going to work because let's just say hypothetically, you pitched in $1,000,
right?
You held that record as the highest backer till the end of the campaign. But let's just say hypothetically that someone else came in along and put in $2,000.
Oh yeah.
The potential of you taking out the funds because you weren't the winner is possible. Or even if you do like a raffle where it's like any amount helps. Like if you put in like $1 for someone who put $10, it doesn't matter. If we do a drawing from that, and that person, like one person gets the person who donated $1 gets a Switch, as opposed to that person put in $10. You're going to have a lot of people who are going to leave the campaign and say, well, it's like, oh, well, I was only donating because I wanted to be the winner of the Switch.
Yeah, exactly. It's another salty of
yeah, so there's like there's some pros and cons where it's like, you do build a momentum, but at the same time you do get risk of people who would bail out because they weren't the winner. Or even afterwards, like if it took their funds right afterwards, they can dispute it because they say, "Oh, I'm not the winner." So
yeah, that would be a whole nother mess.
Yeah, you want to be careful when it comes to that type of stuff. So instead, what we were doing was like matching campaigns where we still did a giveaway where we were actually giving away like 3D prints of these in form.
That was awesome.
And like 3D printing them, and like we only had one person that actually got it, but that was because we were trying our best to do like every 20th winner would get that particular thing, but we didn't really reach enough people to kind of make that happen. But that's okay, that's something that I think we can still kind of reevaluate in the future.
I think like we had joked about earlier, where that bus story would be great. And also, you said this several times, if I could go back in time. So that's another story. Maybe a character who wishes he could go back in time, goes back in time and realizes that the choices he made the first time around were actually the right ones, instead of going back in hindsight.
That's an idea for a story, yeah.
Yeah, I think life itself gives you the best stories. I mean, I tell this to people, especially my newer students coming on. A lot of times, when they're jumping on to like storyboarding for streaming or character design, I'm always championing doing original stuff. And really, to me, I think like the thing that like people struggle with mostly is like what to create, like what kind of story to make. And I always say like, well, what do you do? And some people are like, well, I drive, for Uber, or, I, work in a convenience store or something. And I'm like, there you go. That's your story, because you so intimately live that life. When you sit down and actually put maybe like cartoon characters to that, it's going to have such there's going to be so much detail that the average writer who's just coming up with a random story is not going to be able to provide. So I always say, like, if you're ever struggling with like finding a concept, look at your own life. I guarantee you, if you work at a job or if you go to school, like, you have all your cast of characters there. You have all your scenarios there. So I'm getting the 10-minute mark again, so we're probably gonna we got about 9 minutes and 54 seconds left. So and thank you for being so gracious with your time. You did like an hour and 40 minutes. So that is like the new record for this podcast. What do you want to say toward the end here? And also, if people want to get in touch with you, let's say they are living, outside of Los Angeles, but they still want to be a part of your project. Maybe they do character design or anything. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
They can actually reach out to me through Instagram on my Daniel Animations LLC account. which even though that's considered more of a business account, I still actually do respond to people. If and that's normally like just my preferred way through social media. I don't really go in for emails because the thing that scares me is just how they got a hold of it when I don't have that really touched out in public. So any of the things that I would kind of encourage for people to do, kind of like what you're saying right now in terms of like stories, like what are some things that you want to find for inspiration. The first thing that I've actually been telling people is if you have a story and you want to come up with, I think you're what you should be doing is you shouldn't be spending so much time thinking about how great it's going to be. Instead, you should really start putting things into motion so that way you can figure out if or if not it's actually going to be good. Present that to people so that we can see if or if not that actually has some sort of potential. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't, then there's at least some tweaking that you can actually do from there if you're very passionate about it. The other thing I'd actually recommend for a lot of people to do is don't just stay there in your one spot, your one comfort zone. Because I have that tendency sometimes too, where I can be a little introverted and just kind of stay within like a room the entire day. But in order for you to really find the best stories, you have to go out and live. You have to go out and do things that aren't about animation. Step out of your comfort zone for a bit, and go and experience life as what life has to offer. Because even Chuck Jones was kind of mentioning about that before when he was making Looney Tunes, is he took a big old time of his life going out and kind of experiencing what life has to offer. And he brought all sorts of stories into his studio, and he made them he polished them up in the way that Looney Tunes is famous for. In that same sense is what you can do when you're trying to be an aspiring artist, is to go out and live and experience what life has to offer. And when you have a story, because you will, if I'm going out and talking to you, or just, experiencing whatever it is outside, when you hear a story, you can come back in and you can really polish it a lot better, as opposed to just kind of thinking about I have this idea, it would be really cool if I could do it. And it would be really cool if it having that dream of it's going to be big. Well, it's you can't really make it as big if you're not really pushing the efforts for it, or not really doing yourselves favors and going out and exploring all sorts of other things that you can do with it too.
Absolutely. Well, what great advice too for again this next generation, which I really feel is going to bring so much originality. So many new types of entertainment, and honestly, it's incredible because it's all happening at once. You're like I said, with this Kickstarter, you're investing in a cartoon that you want to see, but yet you're still you're even getting the plush doll, or you're getting merchandise. All these things are happening so instantaneously, and I just can't imagine that there isn't or there wouldn't be a bigger amount of students coming out of schools right now, not focused on who's going to give me my first job, but all scrambling to say to themselves, what am I going to create? What's my voice going to say in the world of animation? Whether or not, like you said, that's going to be a giant moneymaker or any of that sort of stuff. I don't think any of us gets into this industry to be rich or to make tons of money. It's nice if that happens, but we're all in this because we love to create, and we're going to do it regardless if anyone hires us or not. I guarantee you, if you're working at CVS or someplace and it's your lunch break and there's some scrap paper around, you're going to be sketching for yourself. So if you're going to do that anyway, yeah, why not figure out a way to link up with some friends and try and get something off the ground, even if it's something as simple as a webcomic. Nothing ever has to sit on the shelf is, I think, the most exciting part of this new chapter in animation. No one is ever going to tell you, well, this can't happen. As you can see, you thought up of this concept, and look, it exists. It has fans. People are actually giving you fan art and recognizing you on the circuit, and no studio gave you that, no major said, hey, like, Daniel, here you go. You did that for yourself, and your amazing and talented crew did that. So I think, again, like, the future is so bright and so accessible to anyone, anywhere. It's not just if you live in Los Angeles. I mean, you can pretty much live in any part of the world and dream this stuff up, and boom, it exists. So again, thank you so much for taking this time to not only talk to me, but to talk to really the next generation of creators coming up. And I really do hope that if you guys are out there and want to create things, reach out to people like Daniel, people who are actually doing it, and see if, again, like I said, you can even spend a little bit of time talking to these people and getting inspiration, because it's something where you need that courage to believe in yourself and to believe that this is possible. That's how all this happens. You need to just believe in yourself and know that this is possible for anyone who wants it. But you got to put in the work. You got to put in the time.
Yeah, and definitely, I'm actually willing to step in and, if anyone is, if they need help, if they want to be able to get some more, information that I probably didn't mention here, yeah, please reach out to me, because I will actually respond. I do actually check my messages. It's just there are times where it can be a little overwhelming, where I have so much going on, but eventually I do respond to everyone.
Nice.
So that's part of what good leadership should also do as well, where it's they actually engage and they listen to the people and hear what they have to say and kind of help them out with it too. So yeah, definitely reach out to me if anyone ever has any questions or kind of wants to ask make their own interview and kind of get some insight of exactly what it's like to make a project of your own. Yeah, definitely.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'll put a link to your socials when I post this up, and also too, for any of you out there, get a LinkedIn profile if you can, because I know for myself personally, LinkedIn has been the absolute greatest way to connect with other people, other creatives. I'm a fan of all the other ones, but for whatever reason, LinkedIn has been my top. It's the first thing I open, other than the Bible app in the morning, and I check into that all the time. And it's such a vibrant community of people from all professions, who love animation. But again, thank you so much, Daniel. Really appreciate you taking the time, buddy. And yeah, man, you have a great Saturday, man. And please rest up.
Yeah. One last thing before I go, for everyone who's listening, the last thing I want to consider, besides from living, is also resting. Yes, you need to rest in order to have good inspirations. Don't do what I'm doing, where I currently work too much, but resting is going to help out.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon, man. Thanks so much.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Bye-bye.